All right, let's get right into it. I'm going to cover how to write cold emails that get responses from your ideal clients, 5 secrets, and really this is going to be about getting your prospects to read your emails and think, oh crap, we need to talk, because that's the reaction you should have, right? That's the reaction they should have. So why cold email copy matters so much? Because, if your cold email campaigns aren't working, copy is very often the problem, right? And over the last 2-3 years, this has really changed because outbound's become a lot more competitive. Prospects now receive a lot of pitches every single day, right? You don't just compete with like nothing. You don't compete even with just other competitors. You compete with every other email in their inbox, including the ones from, their clients, their partners, their team members, which takes priority over a random sales email, right? And again, since you're just basically showing up in their inbox as plain text, like copy is the first thing they see. That's how they're evaluating you against everyone else, right? It's the words that are on their screen. So this is where it all starts. But it's so important to realize this, right? Like people have been sending more cold emails over the last 2 years. Reply rates have been going down. Software tools have come out that have made it really easy to get data and send campaigns. So there's just a lot more people in the market now, right? So in anything, when the market gets more competitive, you have to focus more on being creative and standing out through your messaging, right? And also just want to share that these principles are all backed by real data. I've been doing outbound for over 12 plus years. I actually started doing door-to-door sales in New York, where like I basically learned to come up with outbound scripts by actually, saying something to someone when I had 10 seconds at the front door of their house and I had to catch their attention really quick, right? So I've been kind of all around outbound for quite a while. And at our agency Revenue Boost, where we run, cold email, LinkedIn, cold calling campaigns for clients, we've run close to 700 outbound campaigns. Very, very majority of that is cold email. So again, everything's just actually based on like stuff that works for us and our internal checklists and SOPs, not just like random ideas I had today. And also there's a lot more than 5 things that go into writing good copy, but this is like the most critical, the most important. If there's other videos on my YouTube channel where I go deeper into this, but really like what I'm going to share is just the 5 things that drive 20% that drives 80% of results, right? So secret number 1 is to nail the tone, because if your email isn't readable, if it doesn't really like have the right style and tone, people aren't going to be hooked into it, right? And obviously if no one reads your email, nothing else matters. So here's kind of our checklist for tone. And we've also built an AI copywriter tool that does all of this for you. So you can click a link below and actually grab that. But this is how the tool is trained, right? It's to write according to these guidelines. So it should really be under 80 words. Now, sometimes we'll break this and we might write longer emails occasionally because it's usually worth testing. It doesn't always work. Usually shorter works better, but it's always good to kind of mix things up with variety. You never know what works in your market, but far majority of the time, most of our emails are under 80 words. The benefit to the prospect should appear in the first 1-2 sentences. They shouldn't have to read the whole email to understand how you can help them, right? Because people have a very, very limited attention span. And again, you're competing with emails they're getting from their team members, their clients, their partners. So you're the last priority, right? So they're really not going to give you much time as a sales email. It should be casual conversational language. Your email should read almost like a text message to a friend or a coworker, right? Maybe not to a friend, maybe not the things you would say to your friend, but generally it should really feel like it's coming from another person, right? It shouldn't be this like wall of formality, right? It should also be one-to-one copy, not one-to-many. One-to-many is like the way that you'd write your email to your email list, right? Or like if you have a newsletter, right? Or how you post on social media, you're talking one-to-many. You're saying like you all, or you're saying like we or us, right? But one-to-one should feel like one person talking to another person, right? And it should be simple vocabulary. A great tool is Hemingway. You can upload your copy into a tool called Hemingway. It's a free app, and it tells you if your copy is like what reading level grade it is, also the word count. So we like to stick for 5th grade reading level or below. So it should be very, very simple, easy to read. And that's not because we're reaching prospects that are dumb and can't read. It's because like people just like things that are easier to understand. They're easier to comprehend, right? Shouldn't be a lot of work for them to understand unless you're reaching like NASA scientists, which is probably most often not the case. But think about Trump. One of the big reasons people studied Trump's campaign and figured out why he won was because he was purposely always speaking at like a 5th grade reading level. I'm pretty sure most of America is like actually reads under a 5th grade reading level. And so Trump knew that. And that's why his language was like so simple. It didn't come across like this, like out of reach politician, right? So really, like ultimately your email should read like a quick internal note, not like a marketing message. That's the main thing. And if you do that, you'll get reactions like this guy on the left that's happy to read your email. Secret number 2 is specificity and segmentation are your secret weapons. So the old way that worked with outbound, 5-10 years ago was you could have one cadence, one message to a massive list, and there could be different kinds of people on that list, right? And the thing is, you'd have to make your copy generic, and it kind of becomes diluted. Like the more people you're trying to speak to with your message, the more you have to dilute it so that it kind of like appeases all of them, right? But then you end up with something pretty generic, right? So the new way is to hyper segment by role, industry, company size, or use case. And really, you can go a few layers deeper than that, right? Because you can also layer in triggers and signals, which we'll talk about in a bit. But ultimately, your list should be like narrow, right? Like the more you can kind of group your ICPs into different buckets, right? And make narrow lists and run like what I call micro campaigns, the more you can make your message specific. And the more likely it's going to resonate because it really feels like you're describing this person's problem very well, right? And it feels personal. And it feels, again, relevant, right? People want to know that you can actually help them with a problem that they care about. And different roles at companies, right, have different problems they care about and different ways they explain those problems, right? Also, you can use very specific case studies and social proof if you segment those. So if you're reaching bigger businesses versus smaller businesses, you can provide the smaller businesses with a small business case study. Same with if you're reaching out to like Fortune 1000 companies and you have a case study with the Fortune 1000 company, that's going to be a lot better to use than a small business case study, right? So just a very simple example of that. But basically, like marketing always works better when it's very specific. And yes, this also takes more work to segment your list into multiple campaigns. You can do a lot of this with AI too. We once had a campaign where we had to have like 100 different messages based on what country they're from, but we used AI and Clay to be able to build that. Which also I have other videos on my channel about how to use Clay to do a lot of this. But anyways, it takes more work to segment your list this way or use AI, but it's worth it. It makes your message stand out because most people aren't going to take the trouble, right? Or take the time. So secret number 3 is really like the most important thing about your email is that you're just explaining how you can help them and you have proof to back it up and you do it fast. So within the first few sentences, the people should know specifically what's in it for them and how you can help them in their role, right? Not how you can help yourself get a sale or get a call, but how you can actually help them. And then back it up with social proof, right? So the worst cold emails talk about the company and the product, but the best ones are talking about the prospect and their problem. So I like to think, prospects over products, right? And then again, you also need to back it up, right? Talk about why you're credible because this is cold email, right? There's no trust yet. Like there's no foundation of trust because you're just coming in cold into their inbox, right? So you have to really answer the question of why should I believe you? Because anybody can make a claim. They've probably heard similar claims, maybe even on the same day from other competitors. So you have to back it up with why should I believe you? And there's a lot of different ways you could use social proof, right? So and we'll usually test this. We'll usually A/B test it across different messages, but social proof could be, big name brands you've worked with. And if you haven't, that's fine. Because again, there's a lot of different ways. It could be big name brands. It could be a specific case study where you describe like a specific result you achieved for ideally a very similar prospect. It could be an aggregate of data. It could be like I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, I said we've run 700 campaigns, right? And I had 12 years experience. So you could talk about how many clients you have or something like that, right? It could be even like your personal background, right? Like I was talking to another SaaS founder recently who was having trouble getting his cold emails to convert. And I told him like, look, didn't you, sell a couple of SaaS companies and have some big exits? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, well, you should talk about that as your story. Even though it's not related to what his current product is about, it's still like that's someone that I'm going to want to talk to. That's someone I'm going to believe knows how to grow a SaaS company, right? Because if you're talking to SaaS founders, they all want to eventually have a big exit and sell their company. So I told them like, hey, leverage your personal story because there's credibility in that. So you can get credibility a ton of different ways. It could also be averages. Like, let's say that you're running like an ads agency or you have like a paid ads tool. It could be like, hey, our average client increases their return on ad spend by 2x in the first 60 days, right? It could be anything like that. So you can get very creative with that. And also, by the way, get creative with how you can help them. So this could be framing the problem. It could be more like negative, talking about the problem they're having. It could just be getting right to the outcome, like what benefit you're going to help them get. In some cases, you can even talk about the mechanism or what makes you unique or like your process or your features. I only recommend that if you're in a more saturated space or a more mature market where like the differentiation is actually what's going to be the, what's actually going to break through, right? But yeah, essentially like when when we're starting out, we're not just writing one email copy. We're usually going to launch a few different campaigns with a lot of different copy variants being tested, right? You have to do a lot of testing. And the most important thing we'll test in terms of copy is going to be how we frame the value proposition, right? So we're just usually playing, like the first thing we're doing is we're trying to figure out like what's the best way we can explain how we're going to help our prospects, right? Is it problem oriented? Is it really getting into a case study? Is it really getting into like what makes our process unique and different, right? So we're usually testing that every single time for every single campaign we run, because that's really like the juice behind your marketing campaigns, right? That's really your core message. Like your core message is what's going to get someone to take action and to be interested in what you're selling, right? Other things like testing subject lines or changing like the different tone or trying short emails versus long emails, like that's all secondary to like the core message, right? The core message is like the key ingredients, right? And that's the most important thing to figure out is like what is really our key positioning. So do most of your testing there. Secret number 4 is low friction CTAs, which is call to actions, and high value lead magnets. So it's harder now to ask for people's time up front because they get, again, they receive a lot of outbound, right? So make the ask smaller, right? Make what you're asking for easier to say yes to, right? That's like a golden rule for all marketing you could be doing. Make it really, really easy for your prospect to take action. So instead of saying book a call, try, want me to send a quick breakdown of how this works? Can we give you a quick audit? Can I share a free analysis, right? And by the way, you can still be booking calls, but you can have the question you're asking be like, let me send you more info. And then you send them more info, and then you ask them to book a call, right? But you're at least then you're getting the conversation started. So go for low friction CTAs if you're booking a call, or just offer them something for free. And then through that, like you're going to get them on a call at some point, right? The best lead magnets take real effort to deliver, which creates a lot of perceived value, right? So for example, like there's 2 types of lead magnets. There's lead magnets that are digital and scalable, like a PDF, a free ebook, a free online course or something, right? And then there's lead magnets that are they take time to deliver. They're like custom, right? Like again, a free analysis, a free audit, free consulting, a free deliverable, a free trial, right? These things have high perceived value because people know that like it costs money. It costs you money and time to actually deliver that, right? And also with AI now, all of the digital lead magnets, the scalable ones, are just kind of like lower in perceived value because nowadays like people just can create pretty crappy PDFs with AI, right? So like all of those types of lead magnets are kind of more and more not really catching people's attention because they're just seeing a lot more like really bad ones flood the market, right? So and the reverse of that is that people are now really craving that human connection and that real expertise from another person, right? So those are the best lead magnets. Those are the ones that always perform the best. And secret number 5 is understand the awareness levels and market sophistication. So this is one of the most important marketing mental models you can learn. It's from Eugene Schwartz. You can Google it and read his book, Breakthrough Advertising. But essentially, like I'm not like there's a lot to this, but the most important thing is that not all prospects think the same way. Everyone has different awareness levels. And then second is that markets have their own level of sophistication, right? And overall awareness. So basically people are either unaware, they're aware of the problem, they're aware of the solution to the problem, they're aware of like specific products, and then they're most aware, which is like they're aware of your product and like in the, consideration phase and evaluation phase, right? So ultimately the more aware the prospect, as well as the more mature the market is, which is just a simple way, like a fancy way of saying, like the more times that the person has heard of similar solutions as yours or tried them before, right? All that means is that the more you have to emphasize differentiation, proof, and free value. So again, the more aware the prospect is, as in the more times they've tried or heard of similar solutions, the more mature the market, right? The more you need to try those 3 things. Because then it's like the people have high skepticism, so they want to know how you're different. They want to know proof, and ideally they want to try something for free so that they can really know that this is different than what they've tried before and just get some free value, get some quick win. Because again, it's going to be harder to earn their attention, which is a simple claim. Now, in a less mature market, right, which is often the case for like a lot of SaaS companies that have like a unique or more innovative solution, really just simple clarity and proof works often the best. You don't really need to get very creative with the copy if you're in a less mature or less sophisticated market, right? And also, if you have an offer, you have a product or service that is saturated and it is a mature market, like let's say you're selling SEO or paid ads as a service. That's, you would think that's also like a very competitive market and customers are very aware of that, which they are, but also you can get creative and you can kind of create your own blue ocean in that case, right? And you can try to find a pocket of the market that has, low sophistication, low awareness. So there's ways you can really get creative with this. For example, what if you went to pet supply companies or a more blue collar business like manufacturing companies and offered to do SEO for them? They're probably not getting pitched a lot. They're probably not savvy with digital marketing. So even though the world could be like all the way over here in terms of being like advanced with digital marketing, there's certain industries that are not at that level yet, right? So you can kind of like almost go into the past, so to speak. So you can get creative with it. If you're selling a really competitive thing, try to find a niche that's, less competitive and where a lot of your other competitors aren't actually selling into, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about like how many times has this person heard of or tried something similar to what you're offering, right? And the more they are, the more you have to really work harder on the copy and ideally give away free value. So again, just know who you're talking to before you write. Now, here's a bonus tip. And I just want to say that personalization is a bonus because I didn't include this as one of the 5 secrets because really this is an enhancer. It's not the foundation. The foundation is 2 things. It's your core message and your offer, right? That's what gets someone to take action. And if you can get that right, you don't need personalization. We run campaigns all the time that have 0 personalization and get great results. In fact, last year we ran a campaign for one client that got 77 booked calls in the first 2 months with 0 personalization, right? Because they had a great offer and a great market. And we really worked on that like key messaging, right? So I wouldn't consider this a core principle, but it's an enhancer. So if you have copy that's already working well, this is going to make it work even better, right? So personalization, it's just really kind of a way to like stand out and catch their attention, but it's not going to make someone want to hire you. The message and the offer is what's going to make someone want to hire you, right? But this at least helps more people consume your message. That's the best way I can really put it. So personalization is just kind of like the cherry on top. It just dresses it up. So when you personalize your copy, it shows real research. It creates relevance because you can say, hey, this thing is happening at your company, and this is why you're in a great spot to use our product or service, right? You can kind of like tie the research about their business together to what you're offering. And then also you can create urgency. So we use AI tools like Clay to reference real signals. Let me just give you an example. So we helped an e-commerce agency who sells Facebook and Google ads to e-commerce brands. We researched what ads a company was running, and any company that was running Facebook ads but not Google ads, we would send them a different message, right? And we'd say, hey, you're running Facebook, but did you know that you could be getting X, Y, and Z benefit if you put a little bit of ad budget into Google as well, right? And that was great because then in that case, the outreach doesn't really feel like just a random email. It feels more like, oh, this person had a legitimate reason to reach out to me and they've done their homework and they know they can help me. That's a hugely different perception, right? We also even researched the e-commerce brand's top selling product, and we put that in the subject line. So yeah, just a lot of things you can do like that. And there's also a lot of other videos on my channel about how we've done some of those AI workflows as well. So final thoughts is copywriting is a lifelong skill, but these principles are the most important 5 specifically for cold outbound. And a lot of them just relate to marketing as a whole, or at least direct response marketing. So just use this as a 5-step checklist every time you write a cold email. Like just write those 5 things down and just look at it every time that you're, writing a new sequence. For deeper training, check out other videos on my YouTube channel. And also if you want help launching or scaling outbound for your B2B company, book a call below. Our team will build you a custom strategy for your offer and target market free of charge. And you can either do that on your own or hire us to help you implement it. But we'd love to chat if you're looking for some help in this area. And if you're still just trying to learn and do it on your own, we also have a free online course that helps you basically get launched in 7 days. And that's totally free and linked below. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video and let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Hey, I'm AJ Quesada, co-founder of Revenue Boost. Really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you do, make sure to leave me a comment and definitely subscribe right now so that you're notified of all the cool stuff we're doing, all the cool tactics, tips, and strategies that we share here on the channel. We help B2B companies scale to 7 to 8 figures. We've helped over 400 clients and we can help you too. And we share some amazing stuff on the channel here. So really hope you enjoyed. And if you do, let me know in the comments and be sure to subscribe. All right, back to the video.